man. So funny. Geoff Wilson, Rob Thompson here at GamePlanU. Today we are live on LinkedIn and on Facebook. How's everything going over there in Ireland?
Rob, everything is going well. We're like yourselves in lockdown. I never thought I would say those word lockdown. It's like something from some sort of a movie. I feel as if I'm in the movie. But no, everybody's well, and we're looking after ourselves. How's things with you?
Now everything's great over here. You know, like you said, I actually feel like I'm in a Will Smith movie. So, you know, it just like it feels like we're in a Will Smith movie. It really does. It's so bizarre now. I think the first like week or two was kind of like, all right, it's kind of forcing us, you know, to do little things different. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, this is real. This is incredibly real and a bit scary, you know.
Yeah.
So, but
you're right. The only thing is we don't get the money of Will Smith. Would love to get his money, but maybe that's for another time.
no, I know well, you know, what are you going to do about that one? You know, what do you mean we're not getting paid big bucks for GamePlanU Today podcast? That's coming.
I can just see now all of the directors of Will Smith ringing us up straight after. I've seen you on GamePlanU Today, and you know we love your work. Can you please come and be alongside Will Smith? I can see that happening.
Yeah, like, what have we been missing all these years with these two? So, well, thanks again for joining me. I mean, we had such a great time last time, and you know, we talked a lot about you know, technology, and I think from the audience standpoint, the feedback we got and I received in that area about your knowledge, your point of view of what's happening especially over in Europe in the Premier Leagues. So I want to focus on that today. I really want to talk about the three areas that you looked at or you mentioned in the three different areas: player performance, fan engagement, and then operation administration. And then I would like you to go a little bit more into kind of, I don't know how you break this out, but, you know, in stadium game day, out of stadium game day, and kind of your theory about all of that and what you see happening over there right now. So that's a loaded question. So you should be able to get some out of that.
So no, listen, that sounds great. And as I've said before, this is why I think the likes of these conversations, very lighthearted, let's say podcasting, whatever you want to call them, video streaming, and you can share some thoughts and ideas. And some people may agree, some people may not agree, but if it at least gets the brain thinking and maybe to go and people to do more research, well then that's good, as well as just enjoying the crack and the fun.
Sorry about that. I fell asleep at the wheel for a second. I'm back. No, I agree. This is a great way for us to connect and share information, share point of views, because you never know who's out there watching or listening, that this is like the exact right time that they needed to hear what we're saying or what you're saying in particular. So, you know, I appreciate your time and your knowledge and experience and certainly sharing that with us.
No, you're very welcome. One thing I am going to do, I'm going to call it a Rob mic. There must be a hashtag in there, Rob mic, because that microphone is just amazing. I'm going to get one.
It was like $40 on Amazon. It really, I mean, you know, it looks kind of cool. I don't even know if it works half the time, but it looks good.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about sports technology and what you see happening over there. Obviously, right now with everything shut down, I think this is the time that you can use for an opportunity. And if you're on the sports tech startup side, or if you're on the team or league side, getting to that point where these are the projects you've always wanted to work on, right? And so this is the window to do some of these things. Where do you see, what area are you mostly engaged with? Is it the player performance, fan engagement? Which side is the side that you focus on?
So for me personally, I would focus on the fan engagement side, and so for me, you've just seen my son actually go in the background there. It's not the quality of working from home. No, for me,
I love it, Geoff.
genuinely,
It's all right. We'll bring him into the show. See what his opinion
this
is.
is this is the way we do it, just live. This is the new way. Yeah. For me, I see player performance that on the field, on the track. I see fan engagement, and I see admin and operations. Really quickly, for me, I see the key focus, and my key focus for the things that I do is on the fan engagement side. Really quickly, I would say on the player performance. Yes, we have the player tracking systems, but we're now starting to see sleep and sleep patterns. We're starting to see a lot on the injury prevention and a lot of that analytics data about that athlete. And it's really about how do we get the extra 1%, the 2% out of that athlete, or how do we prepare that athlete so that they're at their optimum on game day. So I think there's a lot that's happening in that area of player performance, data analytics in that space. I think the space for administration and operation is going to get interesting. For me, I do see it around that CRM, the single view of the customer, stadium operations, but I really see it more in the digital transformation side. How do we get a process and how do we digitalize that? If the process is maybe manual at present, how can we take away time or cost from that process that changes the digitalization? And in essence, that could be on HR, it could be on finance, it could be on a range of things that's within the internal processes. But for me, I see the biggest growth area, and the area that I'm really focused on is the area of fan engagement. And that's in essence sports clubs, sports federations, sports organizations being able to engage on digital their fans and their stakeholders on a closer way. And to me, a lot of it is around that area of having a personalized, deep relationship with your fan, with your customer. I see a couple of areas in this. I see that there is the whole area of esports. I see the whole area of gamification. I see the area of betting and sports betting. I see the whole area of being able to view different camera angles through your mobile app. I see the area of being able to organize food and beverage through your app. I see the area of being able to get content, and where the media is very much the sports organization becomes an entertainment and media organization. I see it very much around the area of AR and VR, where they can, for example, on the AR, point your phone at an image, and that creates a little piece of interactive and engaging digital. I see it through OTT, and I see it through a lot of artificial intelligence. So there's a lot that I've just said there, and I think that says it all. I think if we look at those three areas, the most area is in this area of fan engagement currently. So that's where I think there's been a lot of space, and I do think there's a lot of opportunities for sports tech organizations.
What happens now when the world opens back up to sports? Do fans come back in full force to attend games? What do you think is going to happen in there?
Great question. Personally speaking, I do think sports fans will come back, but I think it will be over time. I think there is that in the back of your mind that interacting and engaging with other people, and does other people have the virus? And so there is that little bit of a fear factor. I think we've got to realize that people can, when they're congregating together, can just get the common flu. So we've got to maybe take away that fear factor and say, this is a good, safe environment. You've been there before, and to come back and for that enjoyment. So to me, I think people will come back. I think it'll take that little bit of time, but to me, that's where the club or the federation needs to have do a brilliant experience. So from when you leave your house to when you go to the stadium, to when you're in the stadium, to when you exit the stadium, to when you go back to your house, the club needs to be involved in all of that process to make that process excellent and worthwhile for the fan.
So if people still are, a little bit afraid and tentative to gather in big groups, how does technology then come into play with a better experience, saying having at-home parties with people, with families and a couple of neighbors, or inside a pub? How does technology play a better space where you could buy merchandise or you could look at a sponsor and a little bit more information there? The sponsors then become involved in the activation side of it if it's a little bit more scalable, because the games are going to come back at some points, whether the fans will come back and the fans will watch. But what's your point of view on that one?
Well, I think for me on digital at present, what we're seeing is that people, and I'm not sure whether I'm answering your question, but let's take it to a certain bit. For me, I think people are saying, okay, you're in the house now, so how can I look at new models of what I'm doing? So if you take what I do, I would consult with a number of global federations, and that is creating the content and then rolling out the content. But in my mind is some information. So why do I not digitalize that information? And that's exactly what I'm doing now. So next week I actually launch with Barcelona Football Club a sports digital marketing course. So what about if there's other courses, sports strategy? What about player performance courses? What about stadium operation, digital transformation courses? So I think what people are doing now, they're reaching out, and um, this current situation is making people think, okay, I have to think different. They're maybe not 100% going off in different ways, but they're saying, where is the opportunities? And that is what I see is, for me, it's giving me, first of all, the time to sit back and to look at my strategy, but also to consider different options like of e-learning, the likes of promoting your thoughts and your ideas through blogs, etc., etc. In the UK, fitness is all done in a gym, or you go out and you do it yourself for a run. But normally it's in a gym. And within lockdown here in the UK, a gentleman called Joe Wicks was out within a week saying, I'm going to do PE lessons for kids at home. And he was able to use digital, that was YouTube, to provide unique content to keep kids healthy, which was good for parents. But what he's doing, he stole the march. He got out and said, I'm going to use this digital channel. He got out early, and then he's creating subscribers onto his digital channel. He's generating revenue. That revenue he's giving back to the NHS, but he's already keeping that database of people already in the future. So he's building up his brand, and he's getting his business ready in this digital environment. And to me, that's smart.
There's so many things out there, and this is a comment from Lou Petrucci on Facebook Live. Sports is a common thread that brings people together and life back to normal. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more. I think more so now than ever, we realize the power of sport. I think when we are hemmed in, we are caged into our house, we realize what sport does. It keeps you healthy, but it gets you out with your friends. We were talking earlier about being on the golf course, Rob, and you get out and that out with people and that socializing in your community. But it also deals with things such as how you feel, your mental health, let alone the community side. And what you find within, from a fan's point of view, whether they like it or not, the fans are a community, they're a tribe. And people like to be part of a tribe, they like to be part of a team, they like to be part all together. And when your team especially is winning, then you become a fanatical fan because your whole right. So for me, sport, not only from the fitness side, but from the human side, the interaction side, is absolutely fundamental. And we will need sport more so now than ever.
What are you finding from the federations? What's the temperature with them? Now that the Olympics has been pushed a year, what are you hearing from that side of that really high level? I mean, is there panic? Is there plan B for them right now? How are they trying to figure out how to keep the fans engaged and give them content?
Yeah, again, another great question. Jeepers, Rob, these questions are amazing. But you must have been up early this morning.
No, just this is it. This is how my mind works.
I like it. So if you take now that there's a void, and that void is lack of live games that were scheduled in for the broadcasters, and whether you're an ESPN or whatever, what we're seeing now is that people are saying, okay, let's look at archive footage. So football World Cups of the past. They're saying, let's look at user-generated content. What's people doing at home, and let's profile that. They're looking at esports, and that's definitely one to look out for. More people the eyeballs are going to esports, and then that content is being used on to replace what's happening on live, where the live game would have been. There are other areas such as documentaries and chat shows that are going on, but these 4 or 5 broad areas is what is taking the space of live shows. And I think what's going to happen is the federations, the global federations, are saying, and rightly so, it's the health of the athletes and the health and the well-being of the fans first and foremost. And that to me is really important, because that sends out a really strong message that we care about you. And I think that's something that people resonate with. If your club, if your federation, if your major event says we care about you, I think people get that. And people, from a branding point of view, become positive or even more positive with that. So to me, pushing events out to next year makes sense. Some federations will have the money to get over this year's sort of extension, but if it happens next year, money's just having to wait for another year. That could be trouble for some federations, but hopefully for most it won't be, with government support and government help. So when these major events happen next year, for example the Euros, for example the Olympic Games, then we will just be a year out of kilt. But I think the right thing is to look after people's health, to move it to the next year, and to do minimum disruption. And I think people get that.
So, what do you think? Let me throw this. I'm going to throw this next question up from Coach Lou. What do you think about playing games without fans? That will start bringing the world back together and forced to stay at home past April 30th. Could you see the question down there too?
Yeah, I can. For me, I would say that is something that probably the likes of the big leagues will try and do, for the sake of getting their season played. There are big concerns, and I understand them, that are broadcast revenue, sponsorship revenue. What about who? If it's a promotion and relegation league like the Premier League to the Championship, those relegation and promotion, all of those decisions are extremely massive decisions. So I think the industry in general would like to finish off the season for not only the commercial side, but also the likes of the playing side of promotion and relegation. So to do that, I think many of the leagues will try and force out, as long as they can, that they keep the season live, i.e. June and maybe even into July. There is even an idea of moving some of the league into September to finish off the season, so that the broadcasters get the live games, and we can identify the promotion and relegation. That means you may have to play some games without fans. It may mean you've got to play a lot of games in a very tight time scale of a weekend to finish the season. Providing the health of the athletes are at the utmost, I think that is one solution that will be looked at. I think it will be quite surreal, because that's the beauty of sport, is the fans being part of it all and that community. I think there'll be nothing happening probably April and probably into May, in terms of those live sports. So if anything happens, I would have thought it'll be end of May, June, July, or September to try and finish those games. But we need the fans. They're an important stakeholder in sport.
I think what you find now too, and you mentioned it before, esports is obviously taking up that void of that space right now. Now they just passed where you could bet on esports, so that takes all the degenerate gamblers back into that space, right? Let's go down a level. Let's go down to collegiate, high school, and youth sports that are now missing their seasons. Now they have to fill that void. Are they turning over into esports now to fill that void? And what do you think that means long term?
Yeah, there's a number of sports. Okay, maybe not at the collegiate level, but NASCAR has went in with iRacing. Formula One has done that as well. And in these cases, they've actually brought the drivers to compete against each other, let alone other people that are just good at the game, other athletes. So they're actually bringing the drivers. So I'm seeing a lot more of that esports area coming into play. I think still it is at the fighting game side of esports rather than the sports side of esports, i.e. NBA 2K, etc., etc. It still is at the Fortnite area is where most of the eyeballs are currently at. I think the eyeballs are definitely going like that on esports. Whether it will maintain will be interesting. I think a lot will depend on the length of time that we are all in quarantine or lockdown will depend that. Because I think when you get sucked into a game and it becomes almost like a drug to you, it'd be very difficult to take you off that. And these, say, 12 weeks could actually do enough to have a whole new of people who watch or play esports predominantly on the fighting side. I think what I would like to see is more growth of esports on the game side, the likes of NASCAR, Formula One, NBA 2K, because that just keeps the real life sport linked with the virtual. So to me, I do see more of that happening. I think what will be interesting is different formats of the games. So will coronavirus come back in the future? And that is a very depressing thought, because if it doesn't, maybe there's something else will come back because we're such a global economy now. So do we have to change the format of our leagues? Do we have to change the when we play? Have we the flexibility to play over one day, several games? Is it over a weekend? Is it different formats? And I think these are areas that we will need to debate seriously.
Think when you look at startups, especially in the tech space, and you just said it, is this going to come back, or another form of this that could even be 100 times worse come back? So in your game plan, in your strategy, when you start scheduling, what is your plan B if something like this happens? This is a total recalibration, I think, of the industry, especially our industry, right? So if you are a sports tech startup, our industry is completely shut down. Completely shut down. You turned an industry off. Every little bits and pieces of it's turned off. So what happens now for those guys? And I'm talking to a lot of sports startups right now and sport management majors that want to get jobs and careers in it. I'm telling them, figure out a different vertical within your business that could support this. So instead of laying off staff or closing down completely, you have to keep a revenue stream going. So what revenue streams make sense right about now? And it's all based in the digital side of it. So that's a brilliant point that you just made. What do you see happening in those discussions now that are going to happen in the future to how to avoid this and how to be able to have a plan B and a plan C in place if this does happen again?
Yeah, to stop this from happening, I think there's a couple of things. Outside of sport, we've got to go back to the source of where it all started. And I think that means we need to improve in certain areas of the world our hygiene. If we don't improve our hygiene, this could happen again. So that's maybe not for this podcast, but that is a fundamental that needs to happen. We need to look at why did this happen, and how do we stop it from happening again? Otherwise, if we don't, there's a strong opportunity chance that it'll happen again. I think from a sports point of view, when we're looking at these sorts of areas, this has taken us all totally by surprise. And the people who are succeeding are the ones who have used digital and have done it quickly. And I would suggest that those sports organizations, I'm talking clubs and federations and sports tech companies, the people that are really engaged within digital and data now, they will be the ones that will be stronger post COVID-19. If you are a club or a federation and you are not looking at digital, I think you will be in a weak situation. And when I mean digital, I do not just mean content. In fact, content is further down the line. So let me give you some examples. When this all happened and started, what people were doing is saying, okay, I'm going to go onto YouTube and I'm going to do ABC on YouTube, make some advertising, subscriptions, build my base. I'm going to do more in my app. I'm going to da, 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 da. Also, people have said, well, I'm going to commercialize what I've got. I'm going to create e-learning platforms, and I'm going to look at how I can create content and sell content on from an e-learning point of view. Other people are saying, well, can I buy online? Can I sell online? So if I buy it at this price, can I sell it on at this price? Can I look at sponsorship revenue if you're a club or a federation? What do they need? What are they looking from a digital point of view? So I know I've touched on quite a lot of things there, but I think that the basis of is this: a sports club, a sports federation need sports tech startups, because we will need to be digitalized in every aspect of what we do. And whether that is we're going to do e-learning to our coaches or referees, blah, 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 whether we're going to use CRM to register all our players and generate revenue, whether we're going to use content on our digital platforms to generate sponsorship revenue rather than traditional revenue, whether we're going to sell online, whether we're going to do our e-tickets, whether we look at other opportunities using digital, those ones that grab those opportunities now and at the core transform their processes, they'll be the strong ones that will survive.
Always great words of wisdom from Geoff Wilson, senior executive consultant over in Europe and the international man of mystery.
Listen, it has been so good to speak to you, to Rob, and again, what I love is your show is so on the mark and it's so on the money, and this is why we need shows like yours and people like you to get out those positive, good messages. I would be saying to sports tech people, there's opportunities out there. Don't think that there's not, but now is the time to do your strategy. Now is the time to build your database. Now is the time is to look at your overall product and your product offering. Now is the time to do research in the industry. Now is the time to do all of those things to make sure that you're strong when you come out of this. And there still is digital opportunities right now.
Yeah, they're very much. We have one more question before I cut you loose, before you kind of roll out the back door there. Hold on 1 second. All right. This is from Coach Lou. Do you see a Netflix of sport events in which people can call up games at will?
Yes, I think the people to look out for Netflix, Amazon, and there'll be other of those providers. I think they will see, like Amazon have got into a number of areas. For example, they had Premier League games on their Amazon Prime, and that not only was to show the game with advertising that came from it, but people then were buying from Amazon when the game was happening and linking a game product to what they're selling. So I think that has worked well for them. I think we will find more of those opportunities. I think Disney, I think Amazon, I think Google, these are ones that we really need to look out for. I think My gut feeling would be the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram. It's more about mini documentaries. It's more about highlights. I don't see them predominantly wanting to spend lots of money on TV rights or TV footage, and therefore that means to me they could be complementary. So if I'm a major sport, I would love to have somebody like Amazon take my lead properties, digitalize all of that content at different parts of the world, and then look at other social properties to get out the highlights, the mini documentaries, etc., etc. So I think what will probably happen is those areas, and I think within Netflix on the documentary side, they will probably build in some sort of interaction where you can decide where the conversation goes or what the outcome is. And I think that will be an interesting area from a production point of view with a Netflix, where you take control of where you want the documentary to go.
Well, Geoff, that was fantastic. I was trying to think of a punchline there on that one, and kind of weave into the Tiger King. Have you seen that documentary yet?
Do you know what? I haven't. Most of the documentaries I watch, all the ones to do with the American football, and like over here in Europe, unfortunately, American football isn't big. But I have so enjoyed those behind the scenes documentaries, and yeah, it's been great to watch those. But sorry, no, I didn't see that one, fortunately.
Well, go watch the Tiger King, because that would change your whole perspective on humanity.
I will do
just
that.
On humanity alone in the United States, you just look at it completely different.
Well, no, I've made that. And listen, I would just like to wish you and all your listeners, please stay safe. And I do mean that. Get my heart on this. Please stay safe. Through this time. But look out for each other. Beyond social listening with Rob's future podcast. Stay in touch, because that's important, to keep in touch and to keep talking, rather than just be on social and just watching streams. Let's get out and let's talk to people. And sport, remember everybody, sport will come back. In what way, we still are working bits of that out, but sport will come back, and sport has a vital part to play.
Amen to that. And Geoff Wilson, thank you so much for spending time with us this Saturday, and we look forward to catching you probably another couple weeks on our Saturday morning chats.
I would love that. I would love that. And you look after yourself, Rob.
All right. Cheers, Geoff. That's Geoff over there, that way. This is Rob over here at GamePlanU today. We'll see everybody next time. Take care.